Miasto młodych, taki jest
City of Youth.
u nas już goście z nami. Helena Lassen,
This is the title of the person. We'll have Michiels Aleksandra for the region of Poland, in Romania. We'll have Oleg Volsky, mayor of Zhovkva city in Ukraine.
Cieszymy się, że w tym panelu weźmie udział również Philippe.
We'll also have Philippe Michiels, assistant of the European Youth Capital Program 2024. We'll also have Vidmantas Mitkus, head for youth affairs at the City Council in Vilnus, and Aleksandra Kulik will be moderating this panel. She's representing Foundation Sempre, Frente.
I'm very happy and very thankful that we have opportunity to meet here in European Youth Capital, and that we can talk now during this panel about cities of youth. Starting this subject, we talk a lot about youth, that youth is the future, the youth is the energy, that youth is this creative force that is, making the change in our societies. But youth is also struggling with many crises, with many difficult situations. As Mr. President said before, we are living now in very specific time full of storms around us. As youth is not monolith, youth is very diverse. We have a lot of young people with different needs, with different struggles. I wanted to ask you, based on your experiences, what decision makers can do to be sure to hear all the different voices of young people, so we could include them better in the cities.
So, first of all, hello everybody. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for welcoming us here. It is a beautiful city. So, first of all, for answering this question, I think we should listen, first of all. The basis of listening is integrating youth in decision making. And that's the, challenge where politicians, decision makers are struggling. Why? Because it took more time to discuss, to develop things that is necessary for youth. And I think in Vilnus, for example, we have a lot of, you as well have councils, working groups, and etc. And from my work experience, I just attach this knowledge into this field. And when we have a decision which will touch youth, for example, we always invite youth.
Well, I think one of the most important things is actually reaching out on a proactive way. If you want to include all segments of society, because when you have traditional participation instruments, you probably reach the most educated, and I think it's really important to go to the base and include all different groups of society. And most likely you will do that by reaching out to NGOs, talking to experts in the field, talking to some key figures in the communities. So I think the really active kind of participation is actually what you need to include all those groups in society in your city policy.
I will just give additional questions to you, because Lithuania had the European Youth Capital, and Belgium is actually going in this process. You will be hosting this title in a year. Are there some specific actions that you're taking to be sure, or you taken before in Lithuania, to be sure that all young people had their voice?
I guess because the European Youth Capital was Klaipėda, and maybe Vilnius will try to apply as well. But in a way, the European Youth Capital is, I think, the basis of the platform that the whole Europe is watching you and learning from you. and it's the point where the youth can meet, discuss, like Deputy Mayor said. They can discuss, find the solutions, and discuss about the challenges. And I think the main aspect and the main thing, the goal from my perspective of European Youth Capital, and just to seeing how it works, is to inviting youth into this, discussions and to decision making. And I think all the platforms of this Congress, councils and etc. is the main thing from where all the ideas, all the like solutions for the challenges can come up.
If I take your question back to, let's say, our European Youth Capital project in Ghent, I think one of the first things we were very conscious about is the fact that we, communication we used to communicate to our NGOs, but also publicly, that we wanted to include like the diversity of the city in the communication, and like be it very visual, that like all groups were part of it, gender-wise, ethnicity-wise. So I think for us it was a real important thing to send the message, like it's not only our white middle-class society who's going to organize this, but it's everybody.
Okay, and now we have our inclusion expert, I believe, from the Danish Refugee Council. Can you give us some of your expertise in this area?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation, and congratulations to the organizers on this very, very important event that is taking place over the next couple of days. I would just maybe like to do a reflection. You said at the start, youth is not a monolith entity within the society. And as a Danish Refugee Council, we can only concur with that. We very often work and engage with the most marginalized segments of the society, so the displaced communities. And within that, also the youth refugee. And very often, when we talk about refugee youth, refugee would somehow overtake the youth part as well. So I want to somehow to highlight also that what the colleagues have said here, what has already been highlighted in the welcoming speech, that there is many more commonalities among youth globally as well. So youth across the whole globe has the same inspiration, has the same drive, has the same wishes to contribute to the society. When we talk about refugee youth, though, there are specificities there that we do need to consider. So those individuals, have fled a war, an active conflict, and might need an additional support or space in order to be able to express themselves, to find connections, to connect with the host communities, so that they can become an active change agent also in the new place where they are finding themselves currently. And I think the city of Lublin and many organizations here have been actually really champions in how that can be done in a very positive way. The community center Baobab, for example, here that has been run by Homo Faber and supported also by UNHCR, DRC, and of course the municipality of Lublin. It's one of those key entities where young refugees can come together and connect, whether it's over a film, a joint cooking of a dinner or a board game, where they can share their excitements or their fears, their anxieties, and so forth. So that's one part within the civil society. And then another important segment is also what the mayor has mentioned himself before, making sure that there are pathways established to link them up with core systems within the society. Within the education, for example, making sure that there is access to quality education, and that there are special elements introduced there, so that displaced youth can actually feel inclusive within the education processes as well. Whether that's making sure that there are additional language courses, there is an additional support in terms of mental health, etc., so they can be an active participants as well. Yeah.
Oleg, panie prezydencie. Co na ten temat
Oleg, what do you think about this having listened to, or in the context of listening to the needs of young people? And how does this relate to the situation of young people in Ukraine? It's a big challenge, what the city, what the urban community can do in this area.
Miasto młodych. Dzień dobry, Lublin.
Good morning, the City of Youth. Good morning, Lublin. And ladies and gentlemen, friends, young people, I would like to say that's a great pleasure to be here. I'll be speaking Polish because I am in Poland. First of all, let me tell you that I am the youngest mayor in Ukraine. I was 25 when I was elected to be the mayor of Zhovkva, and I can tell you, the young people, they are important in self-government, in institutions, in all kinds of organizations. And here in Lublin, I can see a lot of great youth. 10 or 9 years ago, I had the pleasure of participating in the studying program at the Catholic University in Lublin. I was a student of the second year of a university in Lviv and came here to call to the Catholic University of Lublin as during the student in exchange program. We've got the city and 39 villages around it that we have to manage, and there are a lot of young people who are helping us to manage this whole entity. The young people in Ukraine, in my city, are very helpful. Ukraine is at war. You know how hard it is, and we know how much you help us. You've been helping us. The young people help one another, and we are all pursuing the road to the freedom. Nearly 1,000 of our heroes, of our soldiers from our city are in the front, fighting for the freedom of the whole world. Nearly 50% of our population are young people, so people under, let's say, 40 years old. And we understand that young people, they want the democratic free world to win against Russia. And as the mayor of the city, well, one of my first decisions that I took was a resolution of the city council. I initiated the resolution to set up a council of young people, people who are under 27 years old, and they are helping us. They participate in preparing resolutions. They help the refugees. At the beginning, we had 4,000 refugees from different parts of Ukraine in our city. Our youth help us with providing the humanitarian help for our soldiers. And in fact, it's a sad thing. We've got 46 heroes that died in war. 30 of them are young people. And it's a very sad statistic. I believe we will win. And no matter how hard it is, no matter what the politics is, we know that the Polish nation is a nation that is like brothers to us. And a lot of people say that. A lot of people who come to Poland and then come back to Ukraine then confirmed it. And despite the difficult times, the war, I would like to say that I'm happy to be with you here. Thank you for inviting me, Mr. President. And answering your question, looking at the world history, the founder of the city, Hetman Zhovkva, he was a young man, and he, on the 20th of September 1610, he burned Moscow to the ground. So that was one of the most important things, apart from, of course, setting up our city, Zhovkva. And I hope that we will be able to repeat it, to burn the Moscow again, and we'll do it together. Glory to Poland. Thank you for those beautiful words, amazing words. And I would like to say that this position of young people in the city is very important, but also what I can understand is that what the city does for young people, the functionality changes. So, what does a friendly city, a city friendly to young people mean? What do you think about it? Oleg, perhaps you would like to start. Well, my dream is to have Zhovkva just like Lublin. I would like my city to be the European city of youth, but there is a long way ahead of us. We have to do a lot of work. As I understand, young people, they want to do everything fast. They like new gadgets, new communications, new era. In our city, we're doing everything to stop young people from fleeing our city and emigrating to Lviv or to Lublin. We want to keep them in Zhovkva. I remember that I went to Kiev and I worked at the Ministry of Finances of Ukraine there. But I dreamt of coming back to my hometown, and that's what I did. I won the election, and I want to tell young people, both in Ukraine and in Poland, that there is nothing is impossible. If God wants it and you want it, then you can do anything. You can fulfill your dreams.
How should we even define the cities that are youth-friendly in these times?
I think from my personal experience, the city which does everything for youth is a friendly city for youth. For example, if the municipality is listening for youth, inviting youth into decision making, for example. I mentioned decision making, implementing and etc. a lot of times, but I think that's the key element of decisions which is for youth. For example, in Lithuania, we have youth policy legislation from 2003, and 20 years passed, and we have still the, for example, youth work forms, the same ones. And if we see the recommendations of European Commission, goals of youth for Europe and etc., we need to understand that the youth is diverse. They want things fast. They want things fast, but we need to adapt. If we are not adapting the situation, we will lose the youth from our cities. They will go to the cities which are faster growing, faster developing things for youth, and that's the main key, I think, to be not in the back of youth, but ahead for the youth. So.
Well, first of all, let me still thank you for inviting us over here. Yeah, I think there's always a lot of talk about participation, and I think participation is, of course, one of the key things. But one thing that you should implement too, I think, in a city is like co-creation, and that begins, of course, with giving people to co-create, give young people the opportunity to co-create, let's say, from small projects to bigger projects in your city, but also to make funds available for that. Like we have in the city of Ghent, we have this fund that is actually targeted at young people themselves, where they can really get like a small grant from, let's say, up to 3,000 euros. But that gives them a lot of opportunity to experiment with their own projects and grow from there. Like we had, I could give you like 2 examples of that, if it's okay. One success story was actually a very young guy who wanted to make a film, and is like, yeah, I want to make a film with some young people from the city. So he got this grant from 3,000 euros. Makes his own first movie, and then 5 years later he's like invited to Cannes Film Festival. So yeah.
Wow.
And then we have this cultural organization who started with organizing exhibitions, and 7 years later they're one of the main key players in new emerging cultural scene. So there's like a big return on investment in doing these things. This co-creation shapes your city actually for the future, and it makes people want to stay in your city, so they don't look to the other cities and say, hey, maybe I'm gonna check what's going on there. Like, yeah, just you create community in a way, that way too.
To build a little bit on what the colleagues here have been saying, I think if the municipalities and the cities are really, really committed to youth and wish to invest in youth, I think that's the smartest and most impactful, sustainable investment that cities can do on the long run. If we have committed, dedicated, happy youth, then our future will also look brighter. And it's important that those commitments don't only stay at the policy or the city strategy level, but they actually trickle down to day-to-day actions and activities. So giving the youth space to have an actual voice for a change. That could be if there are youth city councils, for example, ensuring that young actually proactively engage in those youth city councils, ensuring actually that those from the marginalized communities do get to participate as well. So invite your migrants, invite your refugees from the municipalities as well to take part proactively in those city councils, for example. If you are providing healthcare services, make sure that they are also youth focused as well, whether it's sexual reproductive health, make sure that this is also included. If we talk about the education, make sure that this is a quality education as much as possible. There are some good examples already been mentioned before, how those processes can be facilitated also for the displaced refugee youth. I would say it's very, very important, in particularly for the marginalized communities or for the displaced youth, that there are safe spaces also created. We need to make sure, we need to understand that while youth has many commonalities globally, as mentioned before, refugee youth bears also specificities with them. Try to imagine that you need to leave your home, and all of a sudden you find yourself living in a 10 square meters room together with your younger, older brother, sister, with your mother, with the grandparents. Your day-to-day reality looks very, very, very different. So it's important that there are also informal safe spaces created where the youth can connect, where the youth can express itself, and very, very importantly, connect also with the host communities as well. And also important to sort of identify pathways to maybe call it youth-friendly employment opportunities as well. We know that in particular within the displaced communities, there is often a lot of pressure on young people to seek employment in order to support their families, which can also then have some negative coping mechanism, drop off from school, etc. So several different elements, and I'm sure a lot of opportunities for the cities to take on youth in an engageful way. If they do, then we are really looking at an impactful and sustainable cities on the long run.
If I could react to open youth spaces. So in Vilnus, we have 3 open youth centers and 18 open youth spaces. And after COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the world and hits maybe now, we have a very solid number of youngsters which are going into those safe spaces to get consultations, individual ones about sex, gender, and etc. All the, those questions which can't be answered in the school sometimes. And young people in Lithuania is from 14 years old till 29, and in Vilnius we have around 80,000 of youngsters. So 30% of them are going into those open youth spaces, and it is I think that's the mark when you need to understand that it is the place where youngsters want to be and needs to be to get some kind of activities, consultations, and etc. And as well, the labor market, for example. So Vilnius is a very big city from my perspective, and youngsters are going to resorts to work near the sea and etc. And but municipality, with some cooperation with NGOs, just thought about idea how the youngsters can implement their practices into summer work, for example. So municipality just contacts with the corporations, with the businesses, make partnership, and just invites business to reach to youngsters and not make them, but invite them into labor market. And the municipality pays around 40–50% of salary extra, just with the cooperation with the business. And that helps for business and youngsters to be implemented in the labor market from young days, because as we see in Lithuania, I think in Europe, that youngsters now are more getting more theoretical level knowledge than practical one. After a high education, they want to go to labor market, but they don't have experience. So that's what we are trying to implement from the practical way, and as well with the volunteering system. We have a volunteering system which after a young person volunteers, he receives a digital badge. Digital badge has information what kind of agendas he reached, what kind of practices he done, and he now can go to, for example, business or corporation, and to show, I reached this, I know that, and that's my experience. And the business, corporation, and others partners can, say, yes, he reached these goals. Because all the CVs, all the, just theoretical level is not a lot. We need as well practices. And the practices is a very good thing for young people, but it is hard to invite them into these new digital things.
You've mentioned many different areas: the inclusion, the healthcare, the education, the employment opportunities, etc., etc. Also living conditions, safe spaces. It sounds like a lot of hassle, from the municipality point of view, but we all believe here that this is something that we want to invest our time and engagement. And I have a questions for all of you. If there are some decision makers who are still having doubts if this is all worth all this energy, all this power, what would you say to the other decision maker? Why is it worth it to engage young people in the city and to make cities youth-friendly?
Tricky question. I think I would say to lead by the example, because today I was very happy with a colleague that our one of the initiatives was awarded as one of the main initiatives in Lithuania, but it was just founded 9 months ago. So I think lead by the example, and other thing is very important, I guess, to share the good practices, because the good practices are basically a key to change somebody's minds, and to go to council, to go to politicians and discuss with them how we can develop a new things which could be a good example, a good practice, and invite them to cooperate as well, because as colleague mentioned, the youth is a good investment in the long run. It is very necessary to invest in youth, from education field, from social healthcare, and etc. So I think in the long run, everybody will be happy, and everybody will be happy those who invested in youth.
Do you agree?
Well, something I actually mentioned before is that return on investment. Maybe I could elaborate a little bit more on this. I think you have this on all levels. It's not only about youth spaces. It's also about public space. It's about better designed public space for youngsters. It's probably also a more well thought designed public space for other age groups. Young people who are actually studying in the city, staying in the city, where they find a city where they can do their sports, find their culture. That's probably a city where they want to stay in, look for a job, build a family, and then the circle is closed, doing something for your young people is doing something for your broader society, actually. So I think that is really the key thing to remember. And it's for some people it's hard to see because people always look at youth as a certain category in society, while it's just, youth are just part of the natural cycle. So see it more as a cycle than as a category. It's just the flow.
No naprawdę jest bardzo ważna rzecz, żeby miasta.
Indeed, it's really important that actually cities do what they can, do the utmost for the benefit of the youth. In Zhovkva, we have a youth development program. We have a special fund to support development of youth. We have a range of projects and initiatives where youth can participate in developing an initiative and get funding from local government. We have a number of open spaces for the youth, where the youth can operate their projects, connect, gather together, organize conferences, watch films, and so on. We organize the forum of youth in Zhovkva a couple of times a year with discussions on education, on the business opportunities for the youth. Mind you, in Ukraine, the youth are very active in the business domain. So it's really important that the city, the mayors, councillors, and the boards, anyone who works for the city, do the utmost once again for the youth to have the opportunity to grow, also personally in the city. And addressing the youth themselves. just a couple of things. On Saturday this week in Zhovkva, we unveiled a monument of St. John Paul II, the market square. John Paul II, the Saint Pope, addressed young people, saying, "Well, don't be afraid." So it's really important. You don't have anything to fear. Just go ahead. Be brave, be bold. Just act, and everything will be all right. Well, the UK's Prime Minister Winston Churchill addressed the British people. Never give up. And I would like to repeat this to our youth in Ukraine, in Poland, in Europe. Don't let's be afraid. Never give up, and that's it. Thank you very much. And would you address the same phrase to the councillors, to decision makers, to those in charge of the cities, just to reduce the risk aversion to youth initiatives? Well, what we know for sure is that, if you don't take risks, you don't drink champagne. So it's a really important message for the youth. Regardless of your age, really, you need to understand that at this moment it's really important for you not to give up, and just to address, the decision makers in all the cities. The youth nowadays is really willing to grab a part of decision-making powers, and they are willing to help. So decision-makers shouldn't be afraid of integrating, including young people in decision-making processes. As we know, in this way, will help the cities and countries and Europe grow, really.
Thank you. I think young people will probably say it's a no-brainer in terms of the message to the decision makers. I think historically there has never been so much youth globally as we find it today. We maybe sometimes forget that in European landscape because we have aging population, but looking globally there has never been so much youth as we have seen it today, and we see the same within the displaced communities as well. A lot of youth represented. I would say the same is also situation here in Poland, particularly when it comes to the displaced from Ukraine. A lot of women, a lot of children, and a lot of young people. So if we sort of create spaces for them where there can be a meaningful participation, if we create pathways for them for quality education, for employment opportunities, for health that is youth focused, for safe spaces where they can connect and express themselves, then I really, really believe that we have a good and a decent shot in impactful futures, whether they decide to stay in their homes where they are right now, or whether that and integrate, or whether that at some point they are considering to perhaps return back home.
Would you like to add something? Because in area of because I asked you about the message for the decision makers, but I also got some messages from the youth. So if you'd like to also give something, smart for the young people to take with them for their work, because I will tell you in a second what is going to happen next, because young people will be working on recommendations for youth-friendly cities. So if you have any advice, very short one for them, what they can do during these 3 days to really make their work, be worthy and very deep for changing their cities in the future. This is your 2 last minutes. Because we already heard, be brave, take risks, be open. Do we have something else?
I guess the same advice would go to the youth as well. The same that we were maybe giving to the decision makers. Be brave, take risk, make sure that you ask for a space for meaningful participation, so it's not only tokenism. Make sure that you identify who the decision makers and decision takers are, that you engage with them directly, and make sure that any sort of participatory approaches are not just pro forma, but they are actually formalized ways where you can influence the processes and decision makers as well. Yeah. So be brave, take risks.
I think be diverse and don't be afraid of politicians and those municipal level guys saying we are not ready, we're not fast enough, and etc. So be bold, be brave, like mentioned 100 times here, but write and say the things which you are matter of, you like, you want in your city, in your country, in Europe, and I think that's the main idea, that be critical to politicians and municipal level heads and specialists, because if you're not pushing them, they maybe will not push themselves.
One more thing I think is that should be aware that you are actually not the youth, but you are the future architects, you're the future decision makers, you're the future politicians, you're the future artists. Everybody has his individual talents, so I think you're shaping the world from tomorrow's world right now, so that's what you're doing. So do it.
For yourself and for the future generations.
Yes, exactly.
От вибуху війни з року 2014.
Starting from the outbreak of the war in 2014, over 9 years really, I've been military voluntary really, and I often visited frontline posts and our military service members, distributing the aids, the support, munitions, clothes, and so on. So next week I will have 101st the visit to Donetsk and Lugansk and Kharkiv, and let me tell you this: when I come to my to our service members in the east of Ukraine, they always tell me, and tell me and my friends, that I think it's really important. So far, as long as we are fighting here on the front lines, your cities, your territories, Ukraine, Europe will be okay. If we are not here, there will be no future for anyone, for our country, for Europe, or for the world. So this is the message to the youth in Ukraine, in Poland, in Europe. Let's please remember why we are here, or why we are where we are, and why we do what we do. And sometimes you need to be ready to devote your most valuable things for others to be able to act for the benefit of the cities, of the countries, of the nations. And let's hope that together we can win the future. Thank you.
Czyli przyszłość miast tak de facto spoczywa jest w odpowiedzialności zarówno młodych ludzi,
future is the responsibility of young people and decision makers alike, so I hope that we'll be co-creating our joint future. Thank you very much for your participation, and until 11 o'clock we'll be starting a cycle of workshops in 3 language groups, in Polish, in Ukrainian, in English, where people from across Europe will be discussing the recommendations for the cities to be youth-friendly in a variety of categories, like infrastructure, living conditions, educational conditions, job opportunities, but also youth participation or leisure time opportunities for the youth. And I hope that over the 3 days of discussions, young people will work out intriguing solutions for us to discuss at the closing session. I wish you a productive meeting at this Congress, and thank you very much. Thank you so much to the panelists and the moderator.
Bardzo dziękujemy za udział w panelu. Kilkudziesięciosekundowa przerwa, po której
very much. And we'll now have a short break and then we'll have another panel discussion. Thank you.